Hello and welcome. My name is Joanna Kay with Screen Magazine, and today we have with us Josh Rubin, the director of the endlessly entertaining whodunit feature film called Werewolves Within. A snowstorm traps town residents together inside the local inn, where newly arrived forest ranger Finn, played by Sam Richardson, and postal worker Cecily, Milana Vaintrub, must try to keep the peace and uncover the truth behind a mysterious creature that has begun terrorizing the community. You
hmm
are multi-hyphenate city. The last feature, you wrote, directed, acted in. Tell me how different this experience was when you had the freedom to, I want to say just direct. It's never just directing, but you know
Yeah,
what I mean. What was it like to have the title as director rather than all these other things on this film?
it was amazing. I mean, it's a bigger beast, and it's not my baby. Scare Me, my first feature, is so my baby, and also it's truly an independent film. We're talking sub $500,000, very small, sub four even, and I was doing a lot. I was doing everything. I was helping strike sets. I was helping design the poster. I mean, you name it, kind of as much as you can possibly think
All
of,
of the
reaching out
hats.
to people, podcasts, all that stuff. And here I'm a hired gun, but it's my job to take the script, take this idea, and actually do what Ubisoft wanted to do, which is make it good, just like make it a good film. And so, the first thing you have to do is say, is this right for me? Or is this going to be just a gig? And it can't be just a gig, because then that's when your audience can smell it if you don't care. And I really cared when I opened it up, because it felt like my hometown. It felt like so much of what I kind of fantasized about growing up, and my imagination around here, making up scary stories in the midst of quirky folks. And so many of Mishna's characters, I mean, her script is so vibrant, the characters kind of leapt off the page, but I was certainly inspired with, like, terraforming them to this region and the region I grew up in the Hudson Valley. There are certainly some characters around, but there are people from all over the world that live up here. But yeah, there's a bit of a local dialect that might influence certain characters, and sort of a fashion style that might influence our local characters' fashion styles. But yeah, it's honestly, Mission scripted so much work in that department. It was sort of easy to then go, okay, well, how it's going to make it personal for me as the director is going, well, here's my town. Here it is through my eyes, if it happened where I grew up, basically. Um, and like, I tell Margaret Boykin this, who is one of our producers and the sort of leading voice behind the Women's Fellowship Program, is I'm spoiled. You guys have spoiled every future job I've had, because they were so wonderful and so trusting, and also just smart. Like, they didn't have terrible ideas. Like, they were like wonderful and smart, and ultimately trusting, which was killer. So it was great, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. Someone at Tribeca at the Q&A afterwards asked me, was there ever a moment where you could have been in this? And I was like, I've scratched the itch. I'd rather cameo and help raise up other people to do things and be in things and perform in stuff where they can do things that they haven't done before. One wonderful moment Sam Richardson and I had early on as he signed on was, I haven't really had the opportunity to play this type of part before. Aya Cash was Scare Me was like, I haven't had the opportunity to, bark like a dog and do a crypt keeper voice. Um, and it's like, if I can keep doing that, but doing it for, like, more marginalized folks or differently abled folks or people who just don't look like me, it's my responsibility. It's what I like get joy in doing too. Like, I'm excited to do that. And I think in another world, I would be, working for Gail Keller. Like, I'd love to be a casting director. I love actors. So, yeah.
That's great. This film was effervescent, I would say, from beginning
Mm-hmm.
to end. And the talented and hilarious Mishna Wolf provided the words, and you provided the energy to bring it to life. And the deaths, the many deaths that we saw in this film, I could watch these characters perform forever. Tell us how you assembled your amazing cast.
Gail Keller, our incredible casting director, and her amazing team, her and Emer, and just basically her wonderful assistants. They I had seen Gail do a panel actually at the Woodstock Film Festival years ago, and she was she was working on Louis at the time and talking about how she loved to like her sort of casting style was like essentially cross-pollinating types of actors with other actors you wouldn't normally see together. You know, some an obscure Broadway actor who was, you know, impeccably funny or could pull tears on cue, and then like couple them up with, you know, some well-established TV actor. And I liked that style. It really stuck with me, and she was my first sort of request off the bat. She, you know, mentioned Harvey Guillen right away. She had wonderful insight into each actor, what they were doing. She's super communicative and wonderful. So while I had Gail sort of working on assembling our cast, I also made a list of dream actors I wanted to work with. I just sort of met Leslie Headland, and her wife Rebecca Henderson, and was familiar with Rebecca's work on Russian Doll. And I thought, rather than casting a, you know, Richard Jenkins type, let's cast Rebecca to be this sort of, you know, irreverent scientist. And she brought so much to it. Sam, obviously, you know, that was sort of everyone's unanimous kind of idea. No one plays Finn better. And also friends, thinking like I've known George Basil and Milana Weintraub for years. Like we worked together back at College Humor, and I knew I wanted to have friends there out in the middle of, you know, Fleischman's New York in the winter in case all went to shit, and I can at least, you know, take them out for a drink or get a hug.
Yeah, definitely. They all had huge performances. Do you have any tips for directors on how to pull these big performances out of your actors?
Well, everything starts with communication. You have to know, especially with a title like Werewolves Within, how to communicate. I am going to take care of you, and this isn't just going to be like a schlocky mess, you know, maybe certain moments. But communicate to them that you have a vision, that you're going to be well taken care of, and within the confines of certain parameters, you can kind of do whatever you want to bring your character to life. And what was important to me was kind of evoking a bit of a Coen brothers sort of sensibility and grounding it in that way. So grounding it, but with a quirk and a reverence, and playing the scares and playing the humor for real, playing it without, you know, playing humor without getting caught trying to be funny. So it's communication and having a vision, you know, and also like every one of these actors is a superhero, you know, like all of
Yeah.
them are operating at the top of their game. They're all, if they're not heavies, they're like improv um, heroes. And it was an incredible assembly because they all ultimately also got along, you know.
I know a lot of the times you don't have the luxury or the time for rehearsal, but it was it was just directed so beautifully with like all the chaotic moving parts into one cohesive scene and film. So it's like, you know, tell me about rehearsal process and tell me about improv versus scripted and what the percentages were like there.
Sure. Well, working backwards, the improv percentage was, you know, it was pretty low from, you know, improv to scripted because we didn't have very much time, so we had to get all, you know, everything kind of in the bag. But when you have actors like, you know, Harvey Guillen as one example to bring him back up, he's going to throw in a one liner that's going to make everybody absolutely crack up, as will, you know, George Basil, and of course Sam, even though Sam is he's playing our sort of, you know, our straight man in many ways. So you have to allow for that. And each of the actors gave me so much to work with in the edit. Um, so always you want to allow for the actors to play a bit of jazz, and then your sort of second base coach to kind of, you know, to focus them in. Rehearsals were cool because we all stayed at a lodge in Big Indian, which is kind of hamlet near where we were shooting in Fleischman's, and all the actors were there. And so we did the table read there, and had drinks afterwards and dinner. And then I think earlier that day, or maybe the next day, we just ran through as a group all of the big scenes. And I described how, you know, we're only going to have one camera for most of the shoot. So I want all of you guys to work together to make this tableau um, uh, visually sort of exciting to the eye. You know, a wide will become a close up sort of a thing. And that was wonderful and economic and super helpful to everyone. So really all the big scenes. And then it was wonderful to then, we had this awesome forever memory, to use an Inside Out reference, where I walked the cast through the Spillian Lodge, which is where we shot the Beaverfield Inn. Spillion's a real location in Fleischmann's. You can have your wedding there. Check it out. And I showed the cast sort of every part of the location where there would be a significant event. Here's where Dr. Ellis is going to be holed up. Here's where this person's going to get, terrorized. Here's where this happens. Here's where Finn and Cecily meet, etc. And everybody was sort of in on it. And I tried to do with the actors what I always wanted from a director when I act, which is like communication, rather than getting there and having that first day of school, like anxiety, and then also shielding up and being an asshole to try and, show that I know what I'm doing, but I'm really insecure. Like, hey, I want to make everyone feel like we're all on the same page. I'm going to communicate as much as I can with you to show you you're taken care of. And everyone just kind of was like, oh man, we're going to have a good time. And again, I think it shows, which is a testament to, all the, just the wonderful, wonderful reviews. Thank you so much. And not that many, but a lot of them. And we are honored. We're so,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm putting on a terrible character. You're like, is this a joke?
We are incredibly honored.
Yeah,
and,
we're just so honored. Yeah.
And I felt honored watching it, because it was like, it felt like a labor of love, and it had all the charm and creativity of an independent film, and it felt like you had the freedom of that. But this was, you partnered with Ubisoft, and it's an IFC film. And tell me, I know it's video game adjacent, I would say. Tell me about how that partnership came about with Ubisoft and
I mean,
IFC.
well, Ubisoft, they're the creative drive behind the whole project. It was Ubisoft's Women's TV and Film Fellowship where they developed Mission to Script. And
Okay.
through that process, sought out the director, brought me aboard, Vanishing Angle as producing partners. And we all kind of worked to make the script the best it could, but best could possibly be. And then B, I was the one to ask them, what do I owe you? This is technically a video game movie. What do I owe you in terms of Easter eggs and the like? And they're like, you don't owe us anything but a good movie. Just like make it good. I was like,
That's
okay.
amazing.
So it was quite freeing to that degree. And also, like, you open Mission to Script, and while I did wince at the concept of, oh gosh, is this going to be, another Doom? It not to knock Doom, but it's, it's sometimes they don't have a great rep, video game films. And the script reads like Arachnophobia. It reads like Fargo. It reads like, the kind of killer genre, sort of Spielbergian stuff I'd watch as kids.
Great. When and where can people see this film?
June 25th. June 25th. It opens in theaters. We just crossed something like 200 theaters, so we're all over the place. And then we're on VOD July 2nd. So spread the word if you see it. Tell your buds. Hashtag it. Take a selfie with the poster. At me. Feel free to at me.
Yeah, at him. You hear that? At him, everybody.
At him, everybody.
Again, this was such a fun film, so enjoyable. I encourage everybody to go see it. And thank you so much, Josh, for talking with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.